diversity of ecumenical experience within a communion, so that you can have Roman Catholics who are very open and use the fullest expression of what is available ecumenically, and those who are uninterested, and that can be true within the scope of any one of our churches as well.
Sure.
John, you were starting to say something.
I thought it was so striking, and again, sometimes it's dangerous to see people living up to the caricatures. I mean, the positive images, but you know,
I've been called worse. That's okay.
The Lutheran speaks of the crucifixion, and the Orthodox speaks of the resurrection, and the man with the Pentecost experience perceives
all three covered, right?
and yet all three overlapping so powerfully, and all three, it seemed to me, seeing. What do you see? I served on the ecumenical, the board for ecumenical affairs for the ELCA for my denomination when we were going through that process of implementing and moving towards and then implementing the full communion agreements that we reached with first the Reformed churches and then with the Anglican churches. And it was very exciting. But in order to sell that, actually, when it was still controversial and before the deal was reached, one of the ways in which people talked about it, and one of the ways in which we needed to talk about it, was that this was really valuable for the mission of the church. And so, because without mission it didn't really mean anything. And as I sat and listened to that conversation, I thought, yeah, well, yes, that's true, and yet, is that the only reason? Is what we usually mean by mission the only thing that it's about? Maybe what mission is about is perceiving the body. It's about, and I came to think of the passage in 1 Corinthians speaking about the Eucharist, or speaking about the meal, and the issue of perceiving the one body. And it struck me that that to talk about our communion or our relationship is to be about the way in which we are, that the body of Christ is present, and that has to do with our community as Christians. It has to do with our community in the church, Catholic and ecumenical, that we are, even if we are divided on issues of whether we can commune, we are one body. Christ has made us one body, and that body is a unity, even as we haven't figured out how to embody it. But that perception of the body is also the body of the suffering Christ in the world. And if it's the suffering, if it's the body of Christ in the world, then the body of Christ isn't just the church, and it isn't just Christians. It's all those whose flesh he shares. So the body of Christ, perceiving the body, is not about just the unity of the church. It is about the presence of Christ in the neighbor and in the other. And to me, then that's where I have a bit of a quibble with those wonderful affirmations from the LCMS Indian mission. I think those are so wonderful. But the last one, it's all about the believers. But the next step, it seems to me, or very often when we are in ministry, we're confronted with the body of Christ as Christ comes to us in those who have not come to believe. But anyway, that's, so, but in every one of those sort of concentric circles, or in every one of those cases, mission, Eucharist, communion, it's about perceiving the body. And I'm too preachy, I'm sorry.
Thank you. But that expansion of who the body is, I mean, we often think about the ecumenical work as being the reconciliation among the church, and in some ways not having any reason for that beyond that it is what Christ commands of us, not for the sake of the world, not that other piece, or not the perception that the body is bigger than the church. Diane, I saw you trying. I want to move to a